they announced that Final Fantasy XII is the next Final Fantasy to get a remaster. Um,
Which,
and actually, what is the interesting thing about this, and this may make it worth it to play if you've only played the US version on PS2, is that they're actually going to be basing it off of the Final Fantasy XII International Zodiac Job System, um,
how
which
how's that different?
um, it what my article says is that it doesn't actually, it gives you an improved turbo mode, but it doesn't state whether or not that's part of the original international version or if it is just part of the remaster. But apparently it's much better.
Okay.
Has more content in it, that kind of thing. And they did that with Final. I know that they did that with Seven,
Yeah.
where they had an international. They had a Japan version which
Yeah.
had it didn't have any of the additional bosses,
Yeah.
and then the American version did, and then they took that version and then released the international version, which was most of what the American version was. But it's weird. Sometimes we get the better version, sometimes we get the
Yeah.
not so better versions of games.
Yeah.
So that's nice. So you're basically getting like the master version of this game.
That's cool. I
Um,
really enjoyed Final Fantasy 12, and I'd like to see it reboot. I know it's everybody else's least favorite game, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. Everybody was upset that they deviated uh, from the past where you don't have you don't have Shiva, they're not summons or espers or guardian forces,
they turn them into
they're ships.
airships.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that
No,
because it was different and it was fun and it was a unique story and it was fast and there was a lot of open experience instead of just like, there's the finish line, just run as quickly as you can in that direction. Final Fantasy X.
and 13.
Yeah. I never played 13 because it looked horrible. I went and I looked at reviews and I also watched some preview videos and I just it didn't look entertaining to me.
My and um, we kind of went through this a little bit before the podcast started. My issues with Final Fantasy 12 was I actually did purchase it. I purchased the limited edition that came with like the steel case and everything. I was
Yeah.
into it. Um, Bought the art book, all that stuff.
Had the gold Nintendo cartridge. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the equivalent.
Yeah.
But I played it. I played it about halfway through, and I just lost interest in it. I liked the battle system. Didn't have a problem with the way that worked, with the exception of in that game you're limited to 3 party members. Occasionally you will have a guest. Now, I feel like a huge game logic error that they made with that game is at one point Ash the princess is a guest in your party.
Yeah.
So she's a 4th party member. You don't have full control over her, but you know that the game can handle 4 people. And once she officially joins your party, well, she can be one of those 3 party members. And to me, that made zero sense at all for that to happen. Like, one game we've talked about before on the podcast is Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger always gave you a reason, like a legitimate reason in the game why you're locked to 3 characters.
Yeah.
And if you had like an extra character who hadn't quite joined your party yet, you basically had to, you know, pick. You had your main character Chrono, pick an extra one, and then you were stuck with that guest character.
Yeah.
So it may be a nitpick, but that always bothered me about the game.
Yeah. That's understandable. You know what could have made that almost worth it? You remember Final Fantasy? It was what was the chess game? Why can't I think of that? Like it was like a chessboard.
I remember the card games.
No, it was Final Fantasy. Um, it was
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Tactics.
yeah. Oh, I don't know why I couldn't. It's been so long since I played that game. But what I liked about that game is you could like you had guest characters that would come into your party, and I think it's tactics that I'm thinking about. But you could strip them of their armor and weapon, and you can put it on somebody else to basically take that class. And maybe if they had some kind of perks, like where they had inventories, for these guest characters, it would have made it a little bit more worth it.
Mhm.
Because it also made it kind of cheap towards the end of the game where you had your last guest and he was just killer, and you could just take him everywhere that you couldn't get past, and all of a sudden you had an entire another character with good stats.
And that made sense for a strategic RPG because you can have these like massive parties that
Yeah,
are like
yeah,
small little squadrons,
yeah,
basically. So that would make sense to have a guest character then, because there's really there's no hard set limit to how many party members you can have.
yeah,
The other thing is I never understood Vaughn's um, role as the main character of
yeah,
the game. Like, and it's funny because as soon as Ash like really gets involved in the storyline, like Vaughn's dialogue disappears. Like
yeah,
he doesn't
yeah,
really talk. All he wants to do is be a sky pirate
yeah.
or and it's just kind of like
I
and
want to be a sky pirate.
and then what's his friend's name? Is it
Penelope?
yeah,
Penelope?
Penelope.
Yeah.
Okay, I think she actually has less of a reason to be there than she does, but that's the
She
only other
has, yeah,
character.
she's got a little crush on Vaughn. She's like, if I follow him everywhere, he'll be mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of dumb, but yeah, you need those characters for certain situations where you need somebody to ask, "What are you talking? I don't understand. The
Yeah.
audience, we don't get it. None of us
What's
get it.
magic?
Yeah, what is this stuff? I don't know." And so you need somebody that's just dumb. Because us as the audience, we're dumb. I'm not saying that we're unintelligent. I'm just saying we lack the information to understand what these characters are talking about.
Right.
So big old dummy character that's just drooling. He's like, I just woke up yesterday, and that's the first time ever I've done that.
And they do it differently in different games. I just feel it was clunky the way they
Yeah,
executed
yeah,
it.
I agree with that. I like the vast landscapes, and I
Oh
like
yeah, that
how
part of the game was
non-linear,
amazing.
and it's just beautiful settings too. Even if you're just going on like a bunch of what they look like oil rigs in the middle of that,
I
sand
remember that
ocean.
setting.
Those
They
those
just keep
were
going on
great. Yeah,
forever and
they
ever
were
and
fantastic.
yeah.
I enjoyed it. And you had a lot of fiends, and or you do have because they're remaking it, so we get to see it all over again. You'll have a lot of fiends to play through, and it's super unique.
And the cool thing about this remaster is that they've actually re-recorded the score, but it will also feature the original soundtrack because when they did the Final Fantasy X remaster, they they redid the music, and some people preferred the original arrangement. So it's nice, and that was my one gripe about as good a game as it is. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for the 3DS. Like they completely revamped the visuals, and it's probably the definitive version of the game.
Yeah.
However, they did nothing to the sound, and it's
Yeah.
like, and then their reason was like, oh well, we wanted to stay faithful to the game. Well, if you want to stay faithful to the game, leave the graphics alone. Like there's a reason why you give us something new to listen to.
You can't just redo a game, but then keep this part because we're being faithful. It's like you're not being faithful.
Yeah,
You're cheap.
and you're not fooling
Yeah.
anyone.
You know.
Um,
Yeah.
and so far, it's only been announced for Japan, but
Mm.
chances are we're going to be.
They're just gonna see how well it does, and then it'll do well, and then they'll release it for us because you got fans. You got a lot of fans over here for Final Fantasy. I find it. What number are they at? Final Fantasy
15.
15.
They're about to release this fall.
We're still like you can't say Final Fantasy. I gotcha. Okay, this is the Final Fantasy. Wait, and then another Final Fantasy, and then it's just like pull it out of your ear. Final Fantasy. It's like what's behind your ears, son? And you got another Final Fantasy. Too many Final Fantasies.